Well, welcome back to this mess. So, this is in the last video we took the machine all apart. For the most part, there's still a couple of sub-assemblies that are together. Like I'm not going to take these apart anymore. Um, and we saw that the drum had some wear marks on it, probably where it had been hitting, which caused the machine to jam, which is pretty common for these machines. I don't think I explained it, but these discs here are actually made out of like pot metal or some kind of similar cheap casting material. And over time, they distort and swell up. And what happens is this shaft here runs like this. And see this little finger here needs to rotate past the drum. So when these swell up, the finger hits against the drum and the machine jams. So what I've done is where there were, wear marks on the drums from the finger hitting them, I just took a file and filed a groove into each of these. This one didn't seem like it had any wear, so maybe it hadn't swollen, and neither did this one. We'll see when we try fitting it. So I've done that. I've filed grooves in here, so hopefully that'll be enough. I haven't tested this yet. We'll do that in this video, but hopefully these grooves will allow the finger here to pass by the drum and not jam the machine anymore. So I've cleaned this up. Can apply some oil to this piece. But there, this gear goes on the end here, like so, and that slides back and forth. And you can see how there's a groove in it, and it's keyed. See, there's a key there, so this gear is keyed onto this drum, and that groove is what the shift fork goes in. So it'll go in like that. Obviously this would be flipped around. Actually, I don't think I cleaned up that shift fork, so let me do that real quick. Now, like I said in previous videos, I just like to use lacquer thinner for this. Get some lacquer thinner on and just wipe that down a little bit. And that should be sufficient. You can see all the crap that comes off pretty easy with the lacquer thinner. So this shift fork would normally be around like that, and then there's a screw here with a spring and a ball bearing under it to detent this. Actually that spring is stuck, so thought I screwed myself there, because when you pull this out then the spring pops down, but actually seems like that might be stuck, so might have to, well, it seems kind of detenty. No, not really. Alright, so I'll have to take that out and clean it too, but anyway, the idea is, so this goes in, should go in like this, I believe. We can, might have to pop this out somewhat. This should slide in there, like so. And then it meshes with either this gear when it's in one position, or if it pops back, it meshes with this gear. And that is your counter direction. So basically what happens is this will be in there like that, and then this shaft, which has the crank on one end, goes up through the middle here. See if I can slide this in so that, see, that comes out through the middle of that drum and then engages. Push some dirt out, so I have to clean it up again. So this is where the crank would go, so your input would come in here, go through this shaft to this gear, which drives this gear, which is attached to a shaft that drives this gear, and then that gear drives the transmission gear, which is, has a key to turn the drum with it. So as you turn the crank, it's going to be turning this. However, if you shift the transmission, see if we can get this lined up to do so. I was trying to push the drum off. Why is that not cooperating? I'm trying to get this to shift over, but it's wanting to push the whole drum for some reason. I have to look into that. Anyway, so when this shifts back to that gear, and that went down. And this is like that. Now, when I turn the input shaft, you can see the drum turns the opposite direction. Well, you could if I was actually showing it. So I'm turning the shaft this way, which you can see, or you can't see. So I'm turning it this way, and you see the drum is turning the opposite direction of how I'm turning the input shaft. So that's what that transmission does. And then this finger piece, I'm not going to be able to show this real well. I can set this down maybe. This finger piece goes in here, and then there's a gear on the side plate, which is this gear right here, that connects this to this. So when this drum turns, it turns the shaft with the finger on it, and because this drum can either turn the same direction as the input handle or the opposite direction, that's going to determine which direction this little tooth pushes the counter wheels. So in one direction it'll push the counter wheel, so that's counting down now, counting down. And in the other direction it'll push it and make it count up. And then these tabs here are for the carries, so anytime this thing here goes past 9, let's see if I can do it. It's always stiff to, can't really do it, I don't have enough force on that little tiny gear. I just dropped the spacer, so I'll pick that up. And anyway, each time this wheel goes past 9, it'll pop out. I guess this one never goes past 9, does it? Maybe that's why. No, see, it'll pop this out. This one is the last one, so that's why it's not going to do that. But I can't turn it. Can't get enough force on a little tiny here to turn it, but it'll pop that out. So now I should be able to. There's a pretty stiff detent on these already. You can see the spring up here is holding this down in between the teeth. That acts as a detent, and then so you got to overcome that plus the detent action on this, and it's pretty hard to do with just pushing in the little gear teeth here. But anyway, when this goes past 9, it pushes this out, which we'll see if we can. I'm going to show you here. What's going to happen is, as this drum rotates around, this tooth is going to come in contact with that little slant there, and it's going to push that little pin, so you're pushing it over into mesh with the gear, and then as the drum rotates past, it's going to drive it one position. I can't get enough. Everything's, all out of line because I'm just holding it in my hands, but you get the idea. And then you can see there's a little ramp here. See how that's flat, and then it goes up into a ramp, and that ramp pushes the detent back into the home position so it doesn't, keep carrying every time you turn the handle. So that's the idea of how this drum and the counter increment finger work. So what we need to do is, I've cleaned up this casting and cleaned up this casting here. We need to fit all these pieces together and see if our drum will rotate and with this finger in each position and not jam anymore. So how I usually like to do that is, I'll take this shaft back out. I'll pop this drum in. Ooh, that transmission. Probably before I do that, I'll take this spring out here and let me clean up that ball bearing because it's not detenting. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll see if we can fit this together. I think I may have been mistaken about this. It looks like they actually have a little shoulder that prevents the ball bearing from dropping all the way down. So I thought it was stuck, but it actually seems like it's supposed to be the way. So you can see there's the ball bearing. If we focus, that just drops in. And you can see it poking out a little bit. don't see that there. The last machine that I went on, the Marchant XL, that ball bearing, if you took this shaft out, the ball bearing would just fall right down. So they must have changed it on this design to have that little shoulder there. So we'll clean up this shaft a little bit, and you can see the detents there that ball bearing lodgings. This just snaps back and forth into one of the detents, and then there's a cut shape here, and that's what this hook goes in to slide the shaft back and forth into either one of those detents. I'll just clean this up real quick here. That makes it nice and clean. And pop this in. And then it has this spring here, which one end is tighter than the other, so the tight end goes down against the ball bearing. And it just has this little plug that screws in the top. If I can get this on camera, it's going sideways for some reason. I dropped it. Alright, let me see if I can get this in. Yeah, so I got that installed, and you can see now, or you could see if I was in frame. Moving this just pops it back and forth either one of the detents. So the next thing to talk about is the timing. Now this machine actually has something I've never seen before on a Marchant, and you can see it actually has little timing marks there. You can see there's a dot on that groove and a dot on that tooth, and when those line up, like now, this cutout here is in the correct position for the carriage to slide through. So this is what was locking the carriage in. Initially, this disc was rotated like that, and when that happens, the carriage can't move, because see how there's these grooves in the back here? So normally the carriage slides like this, kind of, and then when you start an operation, this wheel rotates into one of those teeth, and then the carriage can't move until you get back to the right position where now it can move again. Like that. So that was initially our issue with this machine, but that's not going to be able to get the carriage off because this was rotated, locking the carriage in place. We had to rotate that back, so that was free. But anyway, so when those two line up, this is the correct position for the carriage to slide. So you have to have it like that when you put this together so that everything is timed appropriately. We'll drop this gear in here. Just I think we will. Let's pop that up. And then this has to be timed with this so that this little notch lines up with this little tooth here. So what we need to do is we'll drop this in. At least I think I will. And then I'll rotate this around. Just lined up like that. And then theoretically, this should drop in at some point here. I guess that's correct. That should be correct. So we've got this lined up like that, with those two marks lined up, and then this lined up with that. Now what I want to do is see if I can drop this down. Okay, I'm going to have to fight with this for a little bit. I'm trying to get these gears to mesh, and they're being difficult. What I want to do is I want to get these two terminals lined up and that disc in the right position, and at the same time get this piece to drop in. Should be like that, I believe. And I should be able to just, there we go, now it fell in, if that was in frame. now I was able to just rock this lever and the gear dropped right down in. So now we should be lined up. So this is lined up here, and this is lined up correctly here.